When that little girl, shaking with cold, walked into my boutique holding my phone, I nearly fainted. It was not just a phone. It was the heart of my business, my personal life, and my entire company. An item I could never afford to lose. And when I realized she had unlocked it, I understood that this child knew secrets that could destroy everything I had built. Before I begin, I need you to do something for me. Please subscribe to this channel now and leave a like, because what you are about to hear will stir something deep inside you. This is not just another Christmas story. It is about the meeting between a woman who had everything and a girl who had nothing. A meeting that transformed both of them forever. And you will want to follow every second until the end. My name is Evelyn Harrington. I am 54 years old, and I built an empire in the world of luxury and lifestyle. My home in Aspen is a work of glass and wood that appears in magazines every December because of its Christmas decorations. People think I love Christmas. The truth is, I fear it. Every blinking light, every wreath on a door, every song playing in stores reminds me of the emptiness I have carried for 3 years. I have been a widow for 8 years, but it is not the absence of my husband that kills me inside. It is the absence of my niece, Sophie. I raised her from the age of 6 when my sister died. She became my daughter in every way except on paper. And then, in a court decision that still keeps me awake at night, I lost custody of her to a biological father who had never been present. A wealthy, influential man who hired expensive lawyers and convinced the judge that a workaholic businesswoman could not give a child what she needed. Sophie was taken from me 3 weeks before Christmas 3 years ago. Since then, I have not seen her. He moved to Europe and cut off all contact between us. So when I say that Christmas is a melancholic ritual for me, I am not exaggerating. I do everything right, the perfect house, generous donations, charity events. But inside me there is a black hole that swallows any spark of true joy. People respect me, some fear me, few know me, and that is how I like it, or at least, how I used to like it. On that Christmas Eve, I was in the parking lot of my main boutique in Denver. I had come personally to oversee the delivery of luxury gifts we donate every year to charitable organizations. Huge boxes of cashmere, French perfumes, discreet but valuable jewelry. Everything wrapped in gold paper with red velvet ribbons. I was carrying some boxes to the van myself when I felt my phone slip out of my coat pocket and fall onto the snow-covered ground. I heard the dull thud. My heart stopped. I looked down, but the box I was holding blocked my view. When I finally loaded everything into the vehicle and bent down to pick up my phone, it was gone. I searched through the snow with trembling hands, not from the cold, but from absolute panic. You need to understand this. That phone was not just a device, it was a mobile digital vault. On it were apps with access to company funds, millions of dollars literally in the palm of my hand. There were confidential legal files, unsigned contracts, documents about a fraud I had recently uncovered committed by my own business partner, Claire Donovan, and there was something even more precious. Photos of Sophie. Hundreds of photos I looked at every night before going to sleep. Silly selfies we took together, videos of her laughing, drawings she made for me. It was everything I had left of her. I stormed into the boutique like a hurricane, shouting for everyone to search. I went through trash bins, looked under furniture, questioned employees. Nothing. I was about to call the police when the door opened and a blast of cold air came in along with a small girl. She could not have been more than 11 years old. She wore a coat far too thin for a Colorado winter, a worn hoodie underneath, and sneakers full of holes. Her hands were red and cracked from the cold. Her eyes, however, were huge and bright, as if they held more wisdom than any child should carry. She held my phone with both hands, as if holding something sacred. "I think this is yours," she whispered. Her voice was so soft I could barely hear it over the noise of the store. My first instinct was to rush over and snatch the phone from her hands, but something in her expression made me stop. There was fear there. Fear of me. Fear of being in that place. Fear of having done something wrong, even though she had done something right. I approached slowly. "Thank you, sweetheart. You have no idea how much this means to me," I said, reaching out to take the phone. But when our fingers touched, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The phone was unlocked. The screen was lit, showing exactly the folder I had opened last. Confidential documents about Claire's fraud. My legs felt weak. Someone had accessed it. Someone had seen it. I looked at the girl with a mix of gratitude and terror. My mind raced in 1,000 directions. Did she understand what she saw? Did she show it to anyone? Did she take pictures? Please tell me. I tried to keep my voice calm, but it came out shaky. Did you look at what is in here? The girl bit her lower lip. Her eyes filled with tears. "I did not touch it with bad intentions," she whispered. "I just wanted to find you. I tried to use the GPS, but I could not. So I opened some things looking for your name or address. I am sorry." I took a deep breath. No, you did nothing wrong," I said, kneeling in front of her to be at eye level. "You returned something precious to me. You are a very special girl. What is your name?" "Maddie," she answered, wiping a tear with her sleeve. "Nice to meet you, Maddie. My name is Evelyn. I would like to give you a reward. Would you like to choose something from the store?" She looked around with those huge eyes. The shelves shone with Italian leather handbags, silk scarves, costume jewelry that cost more than a used car. She shook her head. "No need. I just wanted to return it." But my mind could not stop going back to the unlocked phone. "What did you see, Maddie? I know you said you were looking for my contact, but did you see anything else?" She lowered her gaze. "I saw pictures of a blonde girl. Pretty. She looks like you. And I saw some folders with strange names. One was called evidenceclaire.d. My heart sank. She had seen it. An 11-year-old child had seen proof of a multi-million-dollar fraud. I looked at her with a mix of despair and something else. Something I could not name. "Enough to know you are not as cold as you seem," Maddie suddenly said, lifting her face to look at me. "What do you mean?" I asked, genuinely confused. "The photos. You look at them with so much love. You can tell because the screen is always full of fingerprints in the same place. You keep touching her face. And in the documents there are your markings, circled phrases, comments. You are trying to protect someone, or something. I do not know exactly, but I know you are not a bad person." I was speechless. That girl had read my soul through an unlocked phone. Before I could respond, the door opened again, and Claire Donovan walked in, trailing expensive perfume and high heels. Claire is 10 years younger than I am, platinum blonde, always flawless, always calculating. She looked at Maddie with such pure disdain that it made me feel sick. "Evelyn, what is this?" She paused dramatically. "Child doing here? This is a luxury boutique, not a shelter." She returned my phone, I said, placing my hand protectively on Maddie's shoulder. Claire narrowed her eyes. "Your phone? The one you lost with confidential company information?" She made a sound of disapproval. "I hope there was no breach." "There was not," I said firmly. Claire stepped closer to Maddie, bending down to her level with a fake smile. "And you, sweetheart, did you see anything interesting on that phone?" Maddie trembled. "No, ma'am, I only looked for the owner's name." Claire laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. How convenient. "Well, I think you should leave now. Children like you do not belong here. Shoo, shoo." She literally waved Maddie away with her hands, as if she were a stray animal. I saw the girl's face twist with humiliation. She ran out the door without looking back. Something inside me broke as I watched her go like that. "Claire." "That was unnecessary and cruel," I said through clenched teeth. She shrugged. "Just protecting our interests. Dear, you know how these kids are. Tomorrow she comes back with a made-up story asking for money. Better to stop it at the root. I stared at her, seeing for the first time who she really was. Not just an ambitious partner, but someone capable of casual, cold cruelty. I left the store without saying another word, running to the parking lot. I needed to find Maddie. I needed to apologize. I did not know exactly what I needed, but I knew I could not let it end like that. The snow was falling heavily now, covering everything in a white blanket. I searched for her, my eyes scanning the lot. And then I saw her. Maddie was standing next to an old, rusty car. A man opened the driver's door and pulled her inside with a rough movement, gripping her arm tightly. She looked back, her eyes meeting mine through the curtain of snow, and in that look I saw pure fear. The car sped away before I could react, leaving tire marks in the snow. I stood there, shaking, not only from the cold, but from something much deeper. Would you have followed them in that moment, or would you have called the police? What would you do if you saw a child being pulled into a car like that? Tell me in the comments, because I did something that would change my life forever. I got into my car and followed that man into the snow, with no idea what I was about to discover. Driving in the Colorado snow on Christmas Eve is already challenging. Driving while following a suspicious car, with your heart racing and your mind creating 1,000 terrible scenarios, is something entirely different. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers turned white. I kept a safe distance, but not so far that I would lose sight of that rusty car. The streets grew emptier the farther we moved from downtown. The wealthy, decorated neighborhoods gave way to abandoned industrial areas, buildings with broken windows, vacant lots covered in dirty snow. My mind would not stop screaming questions. Who was that man? A father? A kidnapper? A trafficker? Why did Maddie seem so afraid of him? And why on earth? Was I doing this? I should have called the police. I should have taken a picture of the license plate. I should have done anything other than follow a potentially dangerous stranger through the deserted streets of Denver. But something stronger than logic pushed me forward. Maybe it was the memory of those huge, frightened eyes. Maybe it was the way she held my phone as if it were a treasure. Or maybe it was simply because, for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than the constant emptiness that consumed me. The car finally stopped in front of a building that had once been a hotel decades ago. Now it was just a concrete shell of shame, with boards nailed over the ground floor windows and graffiti covering the walls. I parked half a block behind, turning off my headlights but keeping the engine running for heat. I watched the man get out of the car. He was tall, with broad shoulders bent under the weight of something invisible. Disheveled gray hair, unshaven beard, clothes that had once been good but were now worn and stained. This time, he did not pull Maddie roughly. He simply waited as she slowly got out of the car, looking at the ground. They entered the building through a side door that creaked loudly enough for me to hear from where I was. I waited 5 minutes, 10, 15. What was I doing? This was madness. This was an invasion of privacy. This was probably dangerous and foolish. But then I remembered Maddie's look when Claire shooed her out of the store. I remembered how she held my unlocked phone and still returned it. I remembered that she said I was not as cold as I seemed. I got out of the car and walked toward the building, the snow crunching under my expensive boots. The side door was slightly open. I went in. The smell hit me first. Mold, dampness, something vaguely chemical and rotten. The hallway was dark, lit only by gray light seeping through the cracks in the covered windows. I heard voices coming from the second floor. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step groaning under my weight. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure they could hear it. When I reached the second floor corridor, I saw light spilling out of one of the rooms. The door was open. I pressed myself against the wall, breathing slowly, trying to listen. The man's voice was deep, tired, but not threatening. Maddie, how many times do I have to tell you not to go out alone? You know it is dangerous." Her voice was small and defensive. "I just wanted to return the woman's phone." "Rick, it was the right thing to do. She lost something important." "Rick, so he had a name that somehow made him more real, more human." His voice softened. "I know, sweetheart. I know you have a good heart. But people are not always what they seem. You cannot trust strangers." There was a pause, then Maddie's voice, even quieter. "Do you trust me?" "Of course I do. You are all I have." "Then believe me when I say that woman needs help." I saw it in her eyes. She is like us. Lost. Something tightened in my chest. Lost. That was exactly it. I had a mansion in Aspen, a business empire, more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. And yet, I was completely lost. I heard footsteps approaching the door and quickly hid in one of the empty rooms next door, my heart racing. Rick passed by without seeing me, going down the stairs. I waited until I heard the front door close. Then I took a deep breath and gently knocked on the door of the room where Maddie was. She opened it, and her eyes widened when she saw me. "You?" she whispered. "How did you find me?" "I followed you," I admitted, feeling ridiculous. "I am sorry. I saw how that man pulled you into the car and I got worried." She looked down the hallway to make sure we were alone, then let me in. The room was devastating in its sad simplicity. An old mattress on the floor, covered with thin blankets. An open suitcase with clothes folded neatly. A few cans of food stacked in a corner. A thick candle that had been used so many times it was just a stub of melted wax. And on the sill of the broken window, a small pine branch that Maddie had clearly brought to serve as a Christmas tree, decorated with pieces of aluminum foil tied with string. "My God," I whispered. "You live here." Maddie nodded, hugging herself as if she were cold, despite wearing 3 layers of clothing. "Rick is my adoptive father. He took me out of the orphanage when I was 7. He was a good man. He is a good man. But he came back from the war different. He lost his job. Then he lost the house. And now we are here." She said all of it without self-pity, just stating facts. "That man who pulled you into the car, does he hurt you?" I asked carefully. "No," she said quickly. "Rick would never hurt me. He was scared. He saw you looking at me in the store and got scared you were from social services, that you were going to take me away from him. He drinks a lot lately and gets paranoid. But he is not bad. He is just," she searched for the right word, "broken." I sat on the mattress, not caring if my white wool coat got dirty. "Maddie, why did you return my phone? You know you could have sold it, bought food, warm clothes." She looked at me as if I had asked the strangest question in the world. "Because it was not mine, and because—" She hesitated. "Someone returned something of mine once, and I never forgot." "What was it?" I asked softly. "My biological mother gave me a necklace before she died. It was cheap, just a chain with a heart pendant. But it was everything I had from her. I lost it in the orphanage. I cried for days. And then one of the staff members gave it back to me. She found it under a bed. She did not have to do that. She could have kept it or thrown it away. But she returned it. And that changed something in me. It made me believe there is still kindness in the world." I felt tears burning my eyes. "When was the last time you ate?" I asked. She shrugged. "Rick brought bread yesterday, and I got a few dollars cleaning car windows. I bought 2 bananas. We shared them, 2 bananas, for 2 people, on Christmas Eve. While I had just donated thousands of dollars in luxury gifts I did not even need. Maddie, I want to help you. You and Rick." "Let me," I began, but she shook her head vigorously. "No, Rick does not accept charity. He already feels bad enough. If you show up here with food and money, he will lose it. He will think you are trying to prove he cannot take care of me. And he can. We are fine." She was lying, and we both knew it. But there was dignity in that lie, and I respected it. "All right," I said, "no direct charity. But what if I needed help with something? What if I paid you for a job?" She looked at me suspiciously. "What kind of job?" "Well," I began, thinking quickly, "you clearly know how to use technology. You unlocked my phone and navigated the files. I have some documents that need to be organized. Simple typing. Could you do that for me? I pay by the hour." It was a terrible lie, and we both knew it. But she understood what I was really offering, a way to accept help without losing dignity. "How much?" she asked. $20 an hour, I said. She laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Mrs. Evelyn, no one pays $20 an hour to an 11-year-old child to type." "I do," I said firmly, "especially if that child is honest enough to return a phone worth more than a car." We heard the building door open downstairs. Rick was coming back. "You need to go," Maddie whispered urgently. "If he sees you here, he will get very angry. Give me your number. I will call you tomorrow to arrange the job." I wrote my number on a piece of paper. She tucked it into her pocket as if it were gold. As I was leaving, she grabbed my arm. "Mrs. Evelyn, you are better than you think you are. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise." I left that building with a heavy heart and a racing mind. I went back to my car and sat there for a long time, just staring at that decaying structure where a wonderful child and a broken man were trying to survive. I picked up my phone and opened Sophie's photo folder. I looked at that little face I loved more than my own life, and then I opened the other folder, the one Maddie had seen. The evidence against Claire, bank documents showing irregular transfers, incriminating emails, proof that she had stolen millions from our company over 2 years. I had planned to confront her after the holidays. I had planned to do everything legally, carefully, discreetly. But now, looking at that abandoned building, thinking of Maddie eating half a banana while Claire paraded around with $15,000 handbags, something in me changed. Because if an 11-year-old girl with nothing could do the right thing, even when it cost her everything, what did that say about me? A woman with all the resources in the world who was afraid to face a corrupt partner. I drove home that night with a determination I had not felt in years. But what I did not know was that Claire was already 10 steps ahead of me, and that my decision to help Maddie was about to put all of us in danger. On Christmas morning, I woke up before dawn, not because I was excited, the way children are on that day, but because I could not sleep properly. My mind kept returning to that miserable room, that pathetic pine branch serving as a Christmas tree, that incredible girl who had more character at 11 years old than most adults I knew would have in an entire lifetime. I got out of the enormous, empty bed in my master suite, looked through the panoramic window at the snow-covered mountains glowing under the pink light of sunrise, and made a decision. If Rick would not accept direct charity, then I would be creative. I spent the next few hours shopping online. High-quality, non-perishable food, but in simple packaging that did not look expensive. Practical, durable thermal clothing, bought from regular stores, not luxury boutiques. Thick blankets, a small, portable electric heater, hygiene products, basic medicines, everything a family would need to survive the winter with dignity. I arranged for everything to be delivered that same day, in unmarked boxes, with no logos, no cards, nothing that identified where they came from, just supplies mysteriously appearing at their door. But I knew that would not be enough. Rick needed more than food and clothes. He needed purpose, hope, and that would be harder to give. I spent the rest of the morning making calls. I contacted everyone I knew in Denver, asking about rehabilitation programs for veterans, job openings, anything that could help a man like Rick rebuild his life. Most people did not even answer because it was Christmas. Those who did said they would talk to me after the holidays. Typical. It was noon when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered with my heart racing. "Hello? Mrs. Evelyn?" It was Maddie's voice, hesitant. "Maddie, how are you?" "I am fine. Listen, something strange happened. Someone left some boxes at our door early this morning, full of food and clothes and other things. Rick is freaking out. He thinks it was the city or social services. He wants to throw everything away. He says he does not need anyone's pity." My heart sank. "No, Maddie, please do not let him do that. Tell him maybe it was one of the other people in the building, or a church making random donations. It is Christmas. People do things like that at Christmas." She was silent for a moment. "It was you, wasn't it?" I neither confirmed nor denied it. I just said, "What matters is that you have what you need right now, and I really need that help with the typing. Can you come to my house tomorrow? I will send a car to pick you up." "I cannot leave Rick alone," she said quickly. "He is not well. Then bring him with you. I have a huge library that needs to be cataloged. Manual work, organizing books, moving boxes. I can pay him to help too." Another transparent lie, but she sighed, a sound of relief and gratitude. "All right, I will ask him. Thank you, Mrs. Evelyn. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Maddie." I hung up and looked around my living room. The 4-meter-tall Christmas tree covered in ornaments imported from Europe. The marble fireplace with fresh pine garlands intertwined with golden lights. The expensive gifts under the tree that I had bought for employees and acquaintances, each one professionally wrapped. Everything perfect, everything beautiful, everything completely empty of meaning. For the first time in 3 years, I felt something like purpose. It was not joy, not yet, but it was something. It was a beginning. What I did not know was that while I was planning to help Maddie, Claire was planning to destroy me. My phone rang again, and this time her name appeared on the screen. I answered cautiously. "Hello, Claire. Merry Christmas, Evelyn." Her voice was sweet like poisoned honey. "I hope you are enjoying the day." "I am. And you?" "Well, I would be better if I had not just received a very interesting phone call." "From whom?" I asked, even though something in my stomach already knew I would not like the answer. "From a private investigator I hired. You see, after that incident yesterday with the street girl and your lost phone, I became concerned, so I decided to look into things a bit." My blood ran cold. "Claire, what did you do?" "Just my job, dear. Protecting the company's interests. And I discovered fascinating things, like the fact that you were in an abandoned building known for housing homeless people and drug users, like the fact that you tracked that child there, like the fact that you sent thousands of dollars worth of supplies to her address today, and like the fact that you keep confidential company documents on a personal phone that you lost and that was recovered by an unaccompanied minor. Each word was a stab. "You have no right to spy on me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, but I do. As a partner, I have the right to protect our company from potential scandals." And this, Evelyn, looks very much like a scandal waiting to happen. Imagine the headlines. Billionaire stalks homeless child. Businesswoman loses phone with confidential data. Wealthy woman harasses vulnerable family. My God, the press will love it. "What do you want, Claire?" I asked directly. "Ah, we have finally reached the point." Her voice hardened, all pretense of warmth gone. "I want full control of company operations. I want 60% of the shares. I want you out of strategic decisions. Basically, I want you to become a silent partner who just collects dividends and stays quiet." "You are insane," I said, but my voice trembled. "I am being practical. You have 2 options. You accept my proposal, or I go to the press with this sordid story about you chasing a child. And perhaps I will also mention those interesting documents you keep on your phone, the ones about financial irregularities you think you discovered. It would be a shame if the SEC started investigating you instead of, well, other people." She was blackmailing me, using my attempt to help Maddie as a weapon, and using my own evidence against her as a shield. It was brilliant and absolutely diabolical. "I need time to think," I said. "You have until tomorrow morning," she replied cheerfully. "Enjoy the rest of your Christmas, Evelyn. It may be the last one you spend with your reputation intact." And she hung up. I sat there, shaking with anger and fear. Everything I had built in 30 years of work was under threat. And why? Because I tried to help a child. Because I tried to do the right thing for the first time in a long time. The universe was punishing me for trying to be better. I spent the rest of Christmas Day walking through my huge, empty house, trying to find a way out. I could expose Claire first, but without more solid proof, it would be my word against hers. I could accept the ultimatum, but that would mean giving up everything I had built. I could fight, but that would put Maddie and Rick in the middle of a public war they did not deserve. When it got dark, I sat in front of the unlit fireplace, holding my phone. I opened Sophie's photos and stared at them until my eyes burned. I had lost her because I did not fight hard enough, because I believed the system was fair, that the truth would prevail. I learned the hard way that the world does not work like that. And now, I was at the same crossroads again, fight and risk everything, or retreat and keep what I had left. My phone buzzed with a message. It was from Maddie, a photo. She and Rick sitting on the mattress, eating from the cans I had sent, smiling shyly at the camera. The caption read, "Thank you for our best Christmas in years. You are an angel." And there was my answer. I could not give up, not this time. Those two people were counting on me, even without knowing it. And more importantly, I was counting on myself. I had lived for 3 years like an empty shell, going through the motions of life without truly living. Maddie had given me a gift with no price. She had given me a reason to fight again. I replied to the message, "See you tomorrow, and get ready, because I am going to need your help." Not just with typing. She replied almost immediately. "With what else?" "With justice," I typed, and I hit send before I could change my mind, because I had just decided to do something that was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. I was going to expose Claire, publicly, completely, and let the consequences come. But first, I needed more proof, and I needed to protect Maddie and Rick from what was coming. Because if Claire was willing to blackmail me, there was no limit to what she would do once she realized I was not going to bend. I spent the night awake, planning, making calls, contacting lawyers, investigative journalists, regulatory authorities, building my case. And when the sun rose on December 26th, I was ready for war. What I did not expect was that Claire would be ready too, and that her next move would not be against me, but against the two innocents I was trying to protect. The car I sent to pick up Maddie and Rick arrived at my house around 10 in the morning. I was waiting for them at the door, nervous in a way I hadn't felt in years. When they stepped out, my chest tightened. Rick looked uncomfortable in his own clean clothes, probably from the boxes I had sent. He was even taller than he had seemed in the dim light of the abandoned building, with faded blue eyes that had seen far too much. He carried the rigid posture of a soldier, but with the slumped shoulders of someone bearing too much invisible weight. Maddie stood beside him, wearing a new but simple coat, her hair tied back in a ponytail, staring at my house with those huge eyes full of wonder. "Welcome," I said, trying to sound casual despite the knot in my throat. "Rick, I assume." He nodded, not offering his hand. "Mrs. Harrington, I appreciate the job opportunity, but I need to be clear. I don't accept charity." "I understand completely," I said, meeting his gaze. "And this isn't charity. I genuinely need help, and Maddie struck me as very responsible yesterday. Both of you did." He relaxed slightly, but the pride was still there, stiff as armor. We went inside, and I noticed Maddie trying not to gape at everything. The soaring entryway, the exposed wooden beams, the massive windows overlooking the mountains, the Christmas tree that probably cost more than 3 months' rent on a normal apartment. I led them to the library, which truly did need organizing, so at least that part wasn't a lie. "Rick," I said, "I need all these books cataloged alphabetically by author. There are about 3,000 volumes. I pay $25 an hour." He blinked. "That's a lot." "That's fair pay for the work," I said firmly. "And Maddie, I need your help with some digital files in my office." Rick hesitated, glancing between the two of us. "All right," he said finally. "But the moment this feels like disguised pity, we leave." "Understood." I left Rick in the library and took Maddie up to my second-floor office. The moment I closed the door, she looked at me with that unsettling perceptiveness of hers. "You're going to expose that mean woman, aren't you? The one who was rude to me at the store." "How do you know that?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Because that's what I would do," she said simply. "When someone is cruel on purpose, they need to be stopped. Otherwise, they keep being cruel to other people." I sat at my desk, feeling the full weight of the decision I had made. "Maddie, what I'm about to do could get ugly. Claire, the woman from the store, she'll fight back, and she might try to use you and Rick against me. She could say terrible things in the press. You might get pulled into a mess you never asked for." She thought for a long moment, far more serious than any 11-year-old should have to be. "Rick always says the only thing he brought back from the war is knowing when to fight and when to retreat. He says you only fight when it's worth it." She looked straight at me. "Is this worth it?" "Yes," I said without hesitation. "It is." "Then we fight," she said, as if it were that simple. And maybe it was. We spent the next 2 hours reviewing the documents I had compiled against Claire. Maddie was surprisingly good at organizing information, probably because she'd had to be sharp to survive on the streets. She spotted connections I had missed, patterns in bank transfers, emails that contradicted each other. "It's all here," she said finally. "She stole a lot of money. Why did you wait so long to do something?" "Because I was afraid," I admitted. "Afraid of losing everything I built, afraid of being wrong, afraid of fighting and losing again." "Again?" she asked softly. I told her about Sophie, about how I lost her to a system that decided money and influence mattered more than love, about how I blamed myself every day for not fighting harder, about how the last 3 years had been about existing, not living. Maddie listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she simply said, "You won't lose this time, because this time you're not alone." It was almost 1 in the afternoon when my phone rang. Private number. I answered. "Evelyn Harrington." "Yes, who is this?" "This is Denver Child Protective Services. We've received an anonymous report about a minor living in unsafe conditions. A girl named Madeline Porter, 11 years old, residing in an abandoned building with an unrelated adult who may have substance abuse issues. We're heading to the location now." My blood turned to ice. Claire. She had done it. She had reported Maddie and Rick to social services. "Wait," I said quickly. "They're not there anymore. They're with me, at my house." "I see." The woman's voice was professional but cold. "And what is your relationship to the minor?" I hesitated. "I'm a family friend." "Well, Mrs. Harrington, we'll need to conduct a welfare check at your residence. Then we'll be there in an hour." And she hung up. I looked at Maddie, who had gone pale. "They're going to take me," she whispered. "They're going to take me away from Rick." "No," I said, though my voice was less confident than I wanted. "I won't let that happen." But she was right. I knew how the system worked. I had lost Sophie to it. Rick was unemployed, homeless, likely to fail any drug or alcohol test they might administer. And I was a wealthy stranger they'd just met. There was no way this ended well, unless— "Maddie, I need you to trust me," I said, a wild idea forming in my mind. "And I need Rick to trust me too. I'm going to do something that might not work, but if it does, it could change everything." "What?" she asked, eyes wide. I'm going to adopt you, I said. And I'm going to help Rick get into proper rehabilitation, get treatment for PTSD, rebuild his life. But for that to happen, he needs to agree to temporarily sign guardianship over to me, just until he's stable again. She shook her head violently. He'll never agree. He'll think he's abandoning me. He'll feel like a failure. Then we convince him it's not abandonment, I said. It's strategy. It's a temporary retreat so he can fight better later. I ran downstairs with Maddie right behind me. Rick was in the library, surrounded by neatly stacked piles of books, sweat on his forehead despite the cold. He looked at us and immediately knew something was wrong. I told him everything. About the report, about social services coming, about my reckless proposal. He was silent for a long time, staring at Maddie with an expression that shattered my heart. She's everything I have, he said finally, his voice rough. I know, I said gently. And that's exactly why you need to do what's best for her right now, not what's easiest for you. If they take her today, she goes into foster care, then another home, then another. You know the system, but if you agree to this, she stays in a stable home, with me, and you get time to heal, to become the man she needs you to be. Rick, Maddie said, her small hands gripping his massive arm. You always say a good soldier knows when to call for reinforcements. You're calling for reinforcements. You're not abandoning me. You're saving me. That's when he broke. This big, strong man collapsed onto the library floor, sobbing. Maddie held him, crying too, and I stood there, tears streaming down my face, knowing I was witnessing something sacred, a love so pure it was willing to sacrifice itself. When the social workers arrived an hour later, all the paperwork was ready. My lawyer, whom I'd called in an emergency, had prepared temporary guardianship documents. Rick had signed them. Everything was perfectly legal, perfectly organized. The social workers looked visibly disappointed not to find the scandal they had expected, but there was nothing they could do. They conducted a brief interview, verified my impeccable credentials, and left with promises of follow-up visits. As soon as they were gone, my phone rang again. Claire. Congratulations, Evelyn, she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You bought a child. I imagine that'll look lovely in the headlines. I didn't buy anyone, I said calmly. I saved a girl from entering a system you tried to throw her into using a false or malicious report. And you know what else? I have a recording of this call where you just admitted you knew about that report. Funny how anonymous tips can be traced when one has the right resources. Silence. Go ahead and try to destroy me, Claire, I continued. Take your stories to the press, because tomorrow morning I'll be taking mine. All the evidence of your theft, every email, every bank transfer, everything. And we'll see who the public believes. The billionaire who adopted a homeless child? Or the partner who stole millions and then tried to destroy that child out of spite? You wouldn't dare, she said. But fear had crept into her voice now. Watch me, I said, and hung up. I turned to Maddie and Rick, who were watching me with a mix of awe and fear. What I just did will have consequences, I said. My company will go into crisis. My reputation will be questioned. It'll get ugly before it gets better. You can still walk away. You can say you don't know me well. I can find another safe place for you. Maddie stepped forward and took my hand. Her little hand was cold. Would you risk everything for someone fate put in your path? She asked, echoing the same question I had asked myself days earlier. Yes, I said. I already have. Then we risk everything too, she said, because that's what family does. Part 5. English translation. Native, natural, faithful. The word lingered in the air between us. Family. I hadn't heard anyone call me family since Sophie was taken away. And now this brave girl, whom I had known for less than a week, was giving me something I thought I had lost forever. A place to belong, a reason to wake up, a beating heart inside my empty house. I hugged Maddie. Then Rick wrapped his arms around both of us, and the three of us stood there together, a cluster of broken people trying to mend ourselves as one. For the first time in years, my house no longer felt like a mausoleum. But I knew the war was only beginning. That night, after Rick returned to the temporary shelter I had arranged for him, a decent place with a rehabilitation program, I sat with Maddie in front of the fireplace. She was wearing one of the pajamas we had bought earlier that afternoon during a quick trip to the mall. Her hair was still damp from a hot shower, probably her first real one in weeks. She held a mug of hot chocolate as if it were a treasure. "Mrs. Evelyn?" she said softly. "You can just call me Evelyn," I said. "Or, if you want, you can call me Auntie. Whatever feels more comfortable." She thought about it. "Can I just call you Evie?" My heart melted. No one had ever called me Evie. "Of course you can." "Evie," she continued, "what's going to happen tomorrow when you tell everyone about that mean woman? Will they ask me about the phone, about what I saw?" "Probably," I admitted. "Journalists may try to interview you. The press will want the whole story. It's going to be scary and confusing, but I'll be with you every second. I promise." She nodded, processing it all. "And after everything's over, after the mean woman is gone, what happens to us?" I looked at that extraordinary girl who had survived so much, who had kept her kindness intact despite everything. "After," I said slowly, choosing every word, "we'll make this official. I'll adopt you for real, not just on paper. You'll live here. You'll have your own room. You'll go to a good school, and we'll help Rick get better. And when he's ready, he can be part of our life too, in whatever way works best for everyone. Because family doesn't have to look a certain way. It can be exactly what we need it to be." "And Sophie?" she asked gently. "The girl in the pictures? You still love her?" "I will always love her," I said, feeling the tears rise. "But love doesn't run out just because there's more of it. Having you here doesn't mean I love her any less. It means my heart is growing again, and maybe, just maybe, one day I'll be able to bring her back too." Maddie smiled, and in that smile I saw hope. Pure, simple hope. The next morning, I put on my best suit, the one I wear to board meetings when I need to intimidate powerful men. Maddie wore a simple but beautiful dress we had bought. Together, we went to my lawyer's office in downtown Denver. The conference room was full. My attorneys, a private investigator, 2 journalists from respected outlets I had contacted, and a representative from the SEC. I presented everything, every document, every suspicious bank transfer, every incriminating email. Maddie sat beside me, a silent witness to my courage, holding my hand when it trembled. The journalists asked sharp questions. Why did you wait so long? Why didn't you go to the police first? How did you obtain these documents? I answered everything with brutal honesty. I waited because I was afraid, because I chose my comfort zone instead of doing what was right, because I learned the hard way that sometimes you have to risk losing everything to understand what truly matters. And I looked at Maddie as I said that, and the journalists understood. They saw the connection. They saw the real story. Claire tried to defend herself, of course. She gave interviews claiming I was having a nervous breakdown, that my obsession with a homeless child was disturbing, that the documents were forged. But the truth is persistent. Audits began, investigations deepened, and the house of cards she had built with stolen money started to collapse. It took 2 weeks, 2 weeks of headlines, of cameras outside my house, of endless meetings with lawyers and authorities. 2 weeks where I barely slept, where I cooked breakfast for Maddie with hands shaking from exhaustion, where I sat with Rick in therapy sessions and watched him begin to rebuild himself, one tiny piece at a time. Then, in the 3rd week of January, Claire Donovan was formally charged with corporate fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement. She tried to flee the country, but was caught at the airport. The footage of her being led away in handcuffs played on every news channel. I felt no triumph watching it, only deep exhaustion and even deeper relief. My company survived the scandal and actually emerged stronger. The story of how I exposed corruption, even at great personal cost, resonated with people. The stock rose. New investors appeared. And for the first time, I didn't really care about the numbers. I cared about the girl doing her homework in my library, about the veteran who came over for dinner twice a week, sober for 23 days and counting. But the true twist came in February. I was in my home office, reviewing contracts, when I received an unexpected email. The sender's name made my heart stop. Heinrich Weber, Sophie's father. I read the email 3 times before I could believe what I was seeing. Mrs. Harrington, he wrote in formal English. I saw the news about your case in the international press. I saw how you fought for justice, even when it cost you everything. I saw how you opened your heart and your home to a child in need. And I understood something I should have understood 3 years ago. Sophie needs you. She talks about you every day. She cries for you every night. I thought I could replace your love with expensive tutors and elite schools. I was wrong. If you are still willing, I would like to discuss a shared custody arrangement. I will remember that moment forever. The way my hands shook as I held the mouse. The way Maddie walked into the office and immediately knew something monumental had happened. The way I collapsed into sobs. 3 years of pain finally finding release. Evie, Maddie asked softly, is it good news or bad? Good, I managed to say through tears. It's Sophie. He's going to let me see her again. Maddie screamed with joy and hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. And we danced right there in the office, 2 people from completely different worlds, celebrating a miracle born in the most unlikely place. The following months were a blur of international lawyers, custody agreements, emotional video calls with Sophie where she cried and laughed at the same time. It took until June for everything to be finalized. But when I finally saw Sophie walking off the plane at Denver Airport, I knew every second of waiting, every sleepless night, every battle had been worth it. She was taller, almost 13 now, longer blonde hair, but when her eyes met mine, she screamed, Aunt Evie, and ran to me as if she were still 6 years old. I held her and never wanted to let go again. I love you so much, I whispered into her hair. So much. I missed you every day. I did too, she sobbed. Every day. On the drive home, Sophie met Maddie. There was a moment of hesitation, maybe jealousy, maybe uncertainty. Then Maddie said the most perfect thing possible. You must be Sophie. Evie has 1,000,000 photos of you. She looks at them every night. You're very lucky to have someone who loves you that much. Sophie looked at her, then at me, and something softened in her expression. You're Maddie, the girl my aunt saved. No, Maddie said seriously. I'm the girl who saved your aunt. There's a difference. They both laughed. And she was right. Maddie had saved me. She had given me purpose when I had none. She had shown me that love is not a finite resource that runs out, but something that multiplies when it's shared. That evening, the 3 of us sat on the porch of my house, now our house, watching the sun set over the mountains. Rick was there too, sober for 4 months, working as a logistics manager at a company that hired veterans, visiting often, part of the strange and beautiful family we had built. Sophie sat between Maddie and me, each of us holding one of her hands. Rick stood beside Maddie, wearing that tired but genuine smile of someone who had found peace after war. Evie, Sophie said softly. How did you know? Know what, sweetheart? That it was worth fighting for her. She gestured toward Maddie. How did you know it was worth risking everything? I looked at Maddie, watching me with eyes far too wise for her age. I looked at Rick, who had taught me that courage sometimes means asking for help. I looked at Sophie, who had come home after I finally learned how to fight for real. I didn't know, I admitted. I just felt it. Sometimes you don't need to know if something will work. You just need to know that doing nothing would be worse than trying. Maddie squeezed my hand. And sometimes, she said, you lose your phone in the snow, and it feels like a tragedy, but it's actually a miracle waiting to happen. Sophie laughed. That's the craziest story I've ever heard. Is it true? Every word, I said, and you know what's even crazier? If I hadn't lost that phone, if Maddie hadn't been honest enough to return it, if Claire hadn't been cruel enough to show me who I needed to become, none of this would have happened. You'd still be in Europe. Maddie would still be freezing in that abandoned building. And I'd still be alone in this big, empty house, pretending I was alive. We stayed there until the stars came out. 4 people fate had broken and then stitched back together, stronger than before. And when we finally went inside, when I tucked the girls into their separate but equally loved bedrooms, when I said goodnight to Rick, who was sleeping in the guest room because it was too late to drive, when I finally lay down in my own bed, I cried. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude. Because that Christmas, I learned the most important lesson of my life. Miracles don't happen to people who wait for them. They happen to people brave enough to create them. And sometimes, just sometimes, losing something precious is the only way to find what truly matters. Now tell me, what would you do if a child with nothing returned something so valuable to you? Do you think this is destiny or providence? Thank you for listening to my story until the end. Please leave a comment sharing what touched you most. Subscribe to the channel and share this story with someone who needs to believe in miracles again. Because we all need to be reminded, from time to time, that kindness recognizes kindness, that courage inspires courage, and that love, true love, always finds its way back home.